testing today of some of my big bore revolvers, all in 45 caliber approximately. Testing some of my hand loads over there. We'll be testing a Webley Mark One, originally in 4.55 Webley. It's been shaved for 45 ACP. Third generation Colt single action army in 45 Colt. Smith & Wesson second model hand ejector, originally in 4.55 but been converted to 45 Colt, and a Smith & Wesson model of 1917, refurbished by the factory in September 1964, still in 45 ACP. We'll be doing some informal accuracy testing. I've got a few targets up there. I just want to see where they're going to be printing. We'll be testing for velocity. I've got a chronograph set up and a steel target just to see what relative impacts are. Well, first out of the gate today will be my Webley Mark One. This would have originally been made circa 1887. That's when it was first adopted. I don't know by serial number range when this particular one was made. The Mark One was originally in 4.55 Mark One. It was a black powder cartridge. Sometime in World War I, this particular one, I don't know if you can read that, it says 1914, and there's a couple of stars here, and that means that it was upgraded in 1914 to handle smokeless ammunition, and a couple of other upgrades. This mechanism right here allows for easier removal of the cylinder that was absent on the original Mark Ones. If this was all original Mark One, I guess it would have a hole there where there was a large screw originally, so I think the entire cylinder and barrel assembly was replaced as part of the upgrades. One thing that escaped the upgrades, which is surprising to me, it was originally supposed to have this section here replaced with a hardened steel plate dovetailed in there, and this one does not. It's kind of a mystery to me why it doesn't. This particular one suffered the same fate as so many others that were imported into this country during the 50s. 4.55 ammunition was pretty hard to come by, and so a lot of people shaved the cylinder down to accept 45 ACP. The problem with that is the pressures of 45 ACP are about what a proof load was for the Webley. So if you feed this a steady diet of 45 ACP, you're essentially subjecting this to proof load every time you do it. And I've seen many photos of blown up Webleys. I've also read many anecdotes by people who say they shoot 45 ACP all day long for years just fine. I'm not willing to take the chance. I hand load for mine to try to obtain original velocities, and since this was originally a black powder firearm, I like loading it with black powder. What I've made is sort of an ersatz Webley cartridge using 45 auto rim. I cast a 265 grain hollow base bullet. It's a mold that duplicates the original Webley bullet. Very hard bullet for me to cast. I'm not an expert caster, and I have a lot of culls and a lot of rejects. But when they turn out well, they're a good bullet indeed. And I load this with black powder. I've put 18 grains of FFF GoX. That's about all it'll hold. And from my reading, that was the original charge, was 18 grains of black powder. I've tried some more powder in there just to see how much I could fit, and 18 was all I could fit in there. Interestingly enough, the 45 auto rim case is just a little longer than 4.55 Mark II ammo, which is what most people are used to seeing, but that's okay because originally this would have used Mark I ammunition, which was a little bit longer. They switched to the shorter round when Smokeless came out, and they wanted a more efficient burn. But since I'm using black powder, that's just icing on the cake for me. We're going to start off with some chronographing just to see if I can duplicate the original velocity, which was about 600 to 700 feet per second. Alright, it's not going to be possible for me to get the Webley and the chronograph on camera, and since I'm documenting this, I focused on the chronograph reading. So here's 6 rounds, 18 grains of black powder over 265 grain lead hollow base. $612.9, 633.6, 617.1, 640.4, 644, 633. Well, that's right at, or maybe right below, what would have been original factory loading back in the day. Good performance in my book. All right, before we try this out on steel, I'm gonna do some informal target shooting. I just want to see where it's going to print so I'll know where to hold on the steel. I prefer just to hit the yellow moving parts. I don't want to put too many shots in the plate because it doesn't move, and I prefer any splatter to be more predictable. All right, 6 rounds of 4.55 Mark One auto rim. I'll try the lower left target. Looks like we're going to be high left. Well, all shots were sort of high, most of them quite a bit left, so that'll tell me where to hold on the steel. Well, let's see what kind of impact this makes on steel. Just going to aim a little bit low. Miss. There we go. Misfire. Just had a misfire. Try a second strike. There we go. All right, looks like I just had a bad primer in the bunch. I'll check this out more when I get to the house though. Firing pin looks fine. So we'll just chalk that up to light primer hit. Okay. Yeah, pretty good impact. Pretty good performance. I had to aim pretty low, pretty much at the junction of the bottom of the plate and the rest of the steel to get a hit. But when I did, it was a good solid hit. A lot of fun. Webley Mark One. I'm going to take a break, spray this down with a mixture of ballistol and water, aka moose milk, so that I can go on shooting and not have to worry about this corroding on me. Back in a minute. In addition to the 45 auto rim cartridge, you can also use 45 ACP cartridge. It's not historically accurate, but The benefit to that is you can load it in a full moon clip, and it makes a really fast loading clip full of ammunition, especially with these almost pointy bullet noses, and the fact that they're crimped with a roll crimp instead of the typical taper crimp on a lot of 45 ACP. They'll really slide into that cylinder fast. Look at that. Lickety split. Let's see what these do to that steel plate. Up. Time getting used to holding as low. I'm having to hold that right at the junction of the moving plate and the background just to get a decent hit off of them. Let's try a few more of the regular auto rim. That's the last of them. So I get to reload some more. What a hoot. Webley Mark One. Fun revolver. Interesting bit of history. Alright, the next revolver today is a Smith & Wesson second model hand ejector. This one started life as manufactured for the Canadians. You can tell that because of the British broad arrow inside of a C. It would have been originally chambered in, well, it says so right here, 455. I don't know if you can read that. But it suffered the same fate as so many 455 chambered firearms imported into the United States. Somebody's converted it to 45 Colt. It's not a particularly good conversion. Last time I shot it, I was impressed that it shot better than I felt it had a right to, considering that whoever bored it back out didn't do it perfectly concentric. You probably can't see it here, but if you look down the chambers, sometimes you can see the shoulder more on one side than the other, and there's a couple of chambers where there's no shoulder on the right and a little bit of shoulder showing on the left. So pretty poor job, but you'll probably be surprised with how well it shoots today. This one was property marked RMTC CASF 12. I don't know what those mean. Royal Military Training Center, perhaps. I don't know. Anyway, I got this for a trade. I've been very pleased with it. Thought it would be just a good beater gun or a good shooter gun because there's a lot of finish wear on it in places. But the first time I shot it, I was so impressed that it's a real keeper. Certainly not going to be trading fodder. Someone's also removed the lanyard swivel. Maybe I can pick up a replacement. I'll be shooting smokeless loads. I've shot it with black powder loads once. Was really impressed. Tried to film it. Camera malfunctioned. I got like 5-second video. But these are some that I made using 8.5 grains of unique behind a 255 grain lead semi-wad cutter, 452 424. I shot this in the Colt new service and was very pleased with the results. Let's see what I get with this. Onto the chronograph. Okay, 8.5 grains of unique behind a 255 grain lead semi-wad cutter, 45 Colt, fired in a Smith & Wesson second model hand ejector. Well, velocities aren't very high and consistency isn't very good. Not real pleased with the velocity. Let's see what it does in the accuracy department. Okay, again, not real impressed with the velocity in that load, but at least one could probably say that it's a pretty mild load, safe to use in an old revolver like this. I would expect a little bit better velocities though. All right, let's see what kind of accuracy we get. I guess I'll shoot at the center bottom. Low left. Lost. Middle left. Middle left. Lost, maybe in the black. Well, this is going to be a challenge to hit steel with. Disappointing results today. Surprising, it turned in a much better show the first time I shot it. On to the steel. Alright, something I didn't show earlier, I'll try to show this time. Again, whoever converted this did a pretty poor job, particularly when it came to reaming the chambers. From the velocities I'm getting, it's pretty obvious that I don't have excessive pressure, but I've got really sticky extraction. And the chambers are noticeably rough. Maybe I can polish those out, ream them out a little bit, do another test someday to see if I get improved extraction. Okay, rounds were pretty much going to the left, so I guess I'll aim a little bit right and see how this thing handles steel. Okay, I stopped the test momentarily because something smacked me in the forehead, and I was making sure it wasn't a piece of the revolver. Turns out it was probably a piece of lead splatter. Came back and hit me. Perfect example of why you'd never shoot without safety glasses, which I am wearing, particularly not against steel. All right, see how the rest of these fare. Alright, I'll show you the sticky extraction here. Pretty bad. Yeah, I'll have to do some chamber reaming on that. Alright, I'm going to stop the test on this one because it's just not fun today with all the malfunctions I'm getting with it, extraction wise. Okay, the Smith & Wesson M1917 revolver. This was essentially the second model hand ejector, but it was what was requested by the U.S. military, chambered in 45 ACP because of the inability of the arms makers in the country to turn out enough 1911s. So they needed a substitute standard. You can see it's basically the same revolver, only difference being a slightly shorter barrel, 5.5 inch barrel, and a different chambering. This particular one I got on a trade. It looks a little different than a standard 1917. First of all, standard 17 would have a front sight that looks like this. Just one milling is part of the barrel. This one is, the base is milled as part of the barrel, but it has a separate front sight that's pinned. This is actually a replacement barrel, 45 caliber model of 1950 barrel. And secondly, you notice the ejector rod head. The ejector rod head is integral to the rest of the ejector rod. And on the actual 1917, there was a separate head that screwed on there, and a corresponding cutout underneath the barrel to allow clearance for it. This doesn't have that cutout, which initially I thought this was some sort of gunsmith job, but my research has indicated that it was a factory refurbishment. I'm guessing that the barrel probably looked like the chamber mouths do. They look almost like sandstone. They're pretty well pitted. I don't know why they didn't replace the cylinder when they refurbished it with the barrel. But the last time I shot this was my friend's revolver. Last time I shot it, it was a good shooter. And we'll see if that holds true today. I'll be shooting some hand loads, 230 grain, 45 ACP. Lead round nose in front of 5.5 grains of Winchester 231. It's a typical hand load. Onto the chronograph. Okay, 230 grain, round nose lead on top of 5.5 grains, Winchester 231, out of a Smith & Wesson M1917 5.5 inch barrel. 703, 726.7, 718.3, 752.6, 754.5, 707.5. Okay, fastest velocity was around 7.5. Pretty mild, pretty mild. Let's see what it does on target. All right, let's see how this thing targets, so we'll know where to shoot on the steel. I'll be shooting at the center right target. Left edge of the black looks like. Right edge of the black. A little high. I think I pulled that one. Well, so far this has given us the best point of aim. Let's see how we do on steel. Well, so far, this has been the most pleasant to shoot. Little sticky on insertion. The first time I tried to fire double action, the rounds were dragging a little bit. That's probably my loads, not the revolver. So far, this is the most pleasant to shoot that I brought today. Smith & Wesson M1917. Well, I got 5 rounds left of this 230 grain 45 ACP. 1917 can also be loaded singly. Sometimes you have headspace issues. Let's see if we do today. That's the only disadvantage. You gotta pluck them out with your fingertips. Good shooter. Second model hand ejector versus M1917. For the M1917. Much easier to control. Lighter bullet, less recoil. Alright, next on the line today is this Colt 3rd generation single action army. This is one of the newer 3rd generations, so they have returned to the removable base pin bushing in the cylinder. It's actually fairly recent manufacture, probably 2009 perhaps. So this is what you can expect if you buy a new Colt single action army. This one's in 45 Colt, and I'll be shooting it today with black powder as well. I almost exclusively shoot this now with black powder once I discovered how much fun that can be. And I'll be shooting today a 255 grain lead bullet that I cast out of mold number 454190. Approximates the original cartridge. I ran out of Triple F black powder. I had to use an old can of cartridge grade Go X. I've not been real impressed with it. With the Triple F, I was getting a little over 1,000 feet per second with 40 grains. I don't expect I'll get that high with this cartridge grade. I think the last time I tested it was 800 and some, but still a lot of hoot, and we'll chronograph it and see what we get today. Again, 40 grains, cartridge grade GoX, under a 255 grain lead flat point. .1. I don't think it read that one. I'm getting the same reading. Reset the chronograph. I was getting exactly the same reading. I know black powder's consistent, but it shouldn't be that consistent. So chronograph's not reading it for some reason. Let's try it again. 819.4. Again, 819.4, doggone. There, 807.4. Alright, a little trouble with the chronograph, but as you can see, 800 to 850 feet per second. Yeah, not a big fan of GoX cartridge grade. I mean, for cowboy action shooting, I guess it'd be perfect in terms of velocity. From the way it recoils, you'd expect it to be going a lot faster than that, but my experience with black powder cartridges is they recoil a lot harder than smokeless powder. Again, I'm loading 6 rounds because I'm on the range. Let's see what kind of accuracy I get before I move on to the steel. I guess I'll shoot at the lower right this time. A little high. A little high again. Not too impressed. Yep, pretty high, and not all that centered. Guess I haven't found a load this light, although when I was using the Triple F, it seemed like I got a lot better performance. We'll move on to the steel in a moment. Well, based on its performance against targets, I'm sure I'll have to hold low with this as well. Let's see what kind of authority it smacks down steel. No, not bad. I'm having fun regardless. And man, this barrel's getting hot. That's the other thing I've noticed about black powder. It really heats a barrel up. It's pretty much yeah, just about too hot to touch. Okay, well, let's move on to something else. Well, I may have figured out why I was getting such sticky extraction with that second model hand ejector with what were arguably pretty mild loads. I annealed the case necks on these because I was tired of getting a lot of blowback. That's when a lot of sooty gas blows back along the side of the case because there's just not enough pressure to obturate the case enough to seal the chamber walls. And so I annealed them, which is heating them and making them soft. And I can see little tiny serrations on the side of the case, which, you know, the chamber is a little bit rough. So I would say they swelled out perfectly, gripped those serrations, and it just didn't want to let loose of them. But I'm curious to see if it solved my problem in the Colt. One of the biggest reasons I had such blowback in the Colt was I have very, very large chambers in this Colt. Mouths are like .457. Probably some of the reason for maybe some of the accuracy issues. So I'm going to shoot this Colt a little more. I cleaned it up with some ballistol. Got that black powder residue off of it. And we're going to shoot it at the steel with these smokeless loads and see what kind of performance I get, number one, since I just shot it with black powder earlier. And I should probably target it first, I guess. Maybe it'll redeem itself. I wasn't too pleased with its performance a little bit earlier. So we'll try upper right and see what we get. A bit to the left. Over to the left. Well, fairly consistent actually. It's not stellar, particularly that last round, but not terrible. Let's see what kind of case sealing I get. Yeah, pretty good. No blowback along the case, so I accomplished my mission there. Just have to remember, don't shoot annealed cases out of that hand ejector until I get the chambers reamed. We'll load up, see what it does on steel. I threw a last round kind of high on that one. It's probably my fault. But actually, kind of pleased with the performance of this with the smokeless loading. Fairly mild load. Good fun range load. So what its performance is on steel. What about another box of ammunition with me that I loaded up and labeled factory duplication load, 9 grains of unique, behind 255 grains, round nose lead, flat point. Based on the performance I got velocity wise with the 8.5 grains of unique, I kind of doubt this is going to give me 900 feet per second plus, but we'll find out. And we'll go ahead and load it up in the recommended way for carry. That's load 1 round, skip a chamber, load 4 more. If you ever check out Hickok 45's YouTube channel, he covers this quite a bit. About the best shooting channel out there. Alright, let's see how this does velocity wise. Okay, 9 grains of unique behind a 255 grain round nose lead flat point out of a 7.5 inch barrel Colt single action Army. .861.6 and no rating. 850.3. 838.2. 895.4. Well, I guess I'm approaching 900 on some of the rounds, but since that's max, I guess that's what I'm stuck with. If I want anything more than 900 feet per second, I'll probably have to stick with triple F black powder. Let's see how it does on the target and on the steel. Yeah, not overly impressed with that maximum load and peak. But that was the standard loading for a very long time. See how this does on target. Range too much. Okay, upper middle left. Shakes today. Well, not too impressed, but again, I have the shakes, so could have affected something. We'll see how she does on steel. Not a terribly uncomfortable load to shoot, certainly more comfortable than 40 grains of triple F. Alright, steel. I shot high. Well, just gonna load a full chamber. I am at the range after all. That was one-handed stuff. Well, it's certainly fun regardless. Colt, third generation.